Hey everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your World show. I'm your host, Chris Oba. And today is January 29th, 2025. Um, do this broadcast every Wednesday at 11:30. And just want to share thank you for tuning in and checking out the podcast on the either live or the rebroadcast. This has been a big journey over the last year of doing a show of healing, of growth, of um, evolution, and getting to talk about these topics and ideas um, are a lot of fun. These concepts and the higher purpose, though, is for us to be able to find it within ourselves and within our relationships of those that we've walked with in the past, those that we're currently in the walk with, and those that we will meet along the way. And we never know how significant of a role that we play in each other's lives. And there's so much out there. There's so much information that tends to overwhelm us, and we tend to separate ourselves into hierarchies, high frequency, low frequency, good, bad, evil, corrupt, and while I absolutely 100% agree that these times are challenging, just like they have been for every other person, every other animal that's ever lived in the world. But we have the capability of creating beliefs and stories and things like that. And part of what I'm trying to do, and those who come on the show are trying to do, is create an awareness that the new earth, harmony, peace, flow, all these beautiful words, understanding, compassion, um, they're cultivated within our cultures. And when we're able to step out of our own perspectives, we grow our awarenesses beyond our comprehension because we haven't experienced it. And the beautiful thing about that, when you have that awareness of you haven't experienced it yet, is it's not too late. Many people are waking up from the social conformity of this is just the way life is. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to look. This is how we define success in society, what's important, what matters. And how I can back that up with proof is more and more people are starting to look at how their daily lives cause effect to each other, to humanity, to the planet, and they're creating lifestyles that are more sustainable, which means it's a flowing sacred reciprocity of energy within their minds, within the way they use their finances, the way they are in relationships with one another, how we walk each and every day. The part of duality is being while doing. That's bringing it into unity. And finding harmony and peace and acceptance and flow and, all these beautiful things that we're trying to do is really learning how to accept the duality of where we think we want to be, feel we want to be, uh, while observing the five senses of where we actually are. One of the beautiful things about going on a nice hike is you have the opportunity to reflect as you're moving, and it has a process. Meditation, it's a process. All these different practices are processes, so we can creatively and energetically learn how to master being present to now, learning from our past, learning new ways of being now. So we're raising the frequencies of what we've experienced. And we do this on an individual basis because that's what we can ultimately control. But then our relationships are going to reflect both the light and the shadow. And that's a part of the healing process, I would say, and the experience of coming into the sovereignty of oneness between the heart, mind, and the being. How do you reflect that? Eckhart Tolle talks about when you're, presence, and when you come up against the mud puddle, it's not that you just go, it doesn't matter, and you walk through the muck. It's that you use your observation, your wisdom, your creativity, your perspectives, to move beyond challenges. That's a positive mindset. We talk about positive and negative energy and polarities and all that stuff, and negative energy keeps things contained, where positive energy allows it to flow. How does it look like? What does it look like? Why does it look the way that it does? These are answers that are going to be different, and they're going to be unique for every circumstance, every situation, every person. And when we can find harmony and peace within ourselves, and we're able to sit with other people and hear their perspective of where they're coming from, what they want, what they don't want, those types of boundaries, we can learn how to walk together in a harmonious way. Even though those identities will end up shifting through time, and that's what being in conscious partnerships and relationships is all about, is sharing the process of growth. When we're, to play a perfect note on this flute, all the notes that I cover, the holes that I cover, have to be completely covered for it not to squeak, not to be in perfect harmony. And if it's off, we get that. And it's a metaphor of our relationships, whether it's within ourselves, whether it's in our personal lives, in our social, it doesn't matter. It's energy, it's frequency, it's vibration. And by listening to that, we can hear it. So it makes some kind of sense. And when our relationships are like that, if you remember the Charlie Brown commercial, the cartoons, when the parents talked to the kids, it was always that want, 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 want. They couldn't hear it. They didn't understand it. So then we have to take a pause. We need to find stillness. We need to communicate. We need to do these different things, these different skill sets that we're developing through our life to bring harmony within what is this harmonious. And this can be represented, I mean, it's huge. And it's part of the challenge of talking about consciousness and these big things, because it's all energy. It's how you apply it, based on your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors and, you know, all those things. And the more consistent you are, the more you're going to seal those gaps of energy leaking out. And that's going to make you feel really strong and feel really powerful and really good and really embodied. And then we're gonna come across circumstances and people and situations and things like that that are gonna just poke and knock us off just a little bit, and all of a sudden there's gonna be a little squeak again, and then we get the opportunity to repair it. See, creating harmony, peace, flow within our lives and within our relationships, within consciousness, within the planet, it's a continuous act. That's why it's creating. Creator is the manifestation. Creating is the feminine energy that nourishes that container. If we were to use a riverbank as an example, the more water that the shorelines have to hold, the deeper it is, the wider it is. And so the more we're able to maintain the frequency, consistency, the vibrations of our thoughts, feelings, and externalized actions, whether it's our words, you know, our behaviors, the more things will flow without energetic leaks of distraction and despair and depression and circumstances that are hard to get over, in a one way of putting it. And getting over it sometimes is just allowing it to move through you. And you know, I used to be of the mindset that we were in total control. And what I've realized was that was false. Because if we were in total control, we would get bored. It said you could manifest anything in this life. And I believe that's true, but there's energy that it takes to make that manifestation come into form. We're not genies in a bottle. There's a performance that we have to play, the role of life. And we each have our own story. We each have our own narrative. And how we can share our story without attachment, without the need of validation, coming from our honest perspective of this moment, the more we can practice that within ourselves, the more we can hold space for others to do the same thing. And the more we can do that, the more we'll understand, the more we can understand, I should say, how we're more similar than we are different. When it really comes down to the core of our beingness, the source of our consciousness, that's the foundation that I believe our ancestors and a lot of our ancient teachings tried to get us to remember. And a lot of us lose ourselves in the egoic becoming part. Thank you, Mark. And I know that I've, as I go through this, you create this identity of who you think you are or who you need to be or how to show up in life, and it gets the best results. Well, that makes you what it makes you. And the same thing if you avoid it. That trip to Colombia that we just took, was challenging. Not everybody would want to do that. It's not glamping. Not everybody's capable in their present state to be able to do that. And those of us who chose to do it chose to because we had the opportunity to and we were capable. Just like everything else that we ever do. The ego doesn't set us up to fail. It doesn't. It's to preserve us. It's to keep us safe. When we can expand that box and understand that no matter what we go through, we're gonna transcend it. What do we have fear of? We all are, Mark, and I think that's part of the challenging thing, right? Because we can create a persona like, I'm not scared of this, I'm not scared of that, I'm able to have my heart broken and rebound and all that kind of stuff. We create this persona of how strong and capable we are, and then when we bump into some adversity that we weren't expecting, it's like it pulls the rug out from underneath of us, and it humbles us and it reminds us what it means to be human and not so intellectual, not so conceptual. That imaginary fence of a comfort zone of what we've identified as a belief or of some kind of faith. I remember right before I slit my wrist as a teenager, surrendering into, I don't know what's going to happen next. But I was okay with it. Whatever it was. And when I came back, I was angry because I had really, truly let it go. And now as I walk with all my friends and my loved ones and the people I care about, and, I hear of a loss of somebody that, OD'd, or some kind of tragic thing. I can't help but to be grateful for them. Because on the other side of this human experience is the transcendence of unity, and there is no separation. And there's so many of us earthwalkers that are trying to create unity, that are trying to create community, that are trying to create oneness and a collective understanding and universal love. But if we're creating these concepts and constructs that say you have to practice this, or you have to believe that, or you have to do this, or you have to do that, is that truly freedom? One of the things that I've learned within my experience of life is I feel there's not many people that I've come across in my life, in all the various walks of lifestyles and things like that, that I've ever met someone that I couldn't at some level relate with. Come to some kind of mutual understanding. Whether it's not, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to think that way. I would prefer to see it from a different view. Or see we're talking about the same thing, and the only thing that's separating us is our fear and insecurity that there's something outside of us that's a greater human being than ourselves. Because we're all capable of great things. Now, I'm 5'3". I'm never going to be an NBA basketball star. But if I was really into basketball and that was really a passion of mine, I could definitely create an identity that would support my focus and my energy going into that. And I can tell you that's why I'm here today doing this podcast, creating and enhancing your world, and the online communities and memberships, and doing the workshops and the ceremonies and the healing services and all that stuff, because I enjoy helping others help themselves. I enjoy, it brings me so much joy to see someone who is in a hopeless situation find hope within their circumstances. And I guess to give meaning to the experiences that I went through that were challenging, I needed to have those circumstances within my life to truly be able to empathize with somebody that went through a similar situation. Even though they can't be compared, and one's not better or whatever, they're just stories, they're just experiences that helped get us to who we are today. If we don't like who we are today, if we don't like where we are today, if we don't like who we're in relationship with because they don't allow us to be ourselves, whatever that means, we have the opportunity to transmute it in multiple ways. We can either change our expectation, which is our thoughts, feelings, and the way we identify with things, which all the spiritual teachings will state. If you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change? Or you physically change your circumstances? You physically start separating yourself from life. You physically start separating yourself from challenging relationships, which I, it's been my experience that no matter how hard you try, you're going to have challenging situations and relationships, even with it when it's in yourself. You may be able to accept it a little bit easier, and I think that's part of the interesting thing. If you look at how we build communities, it's the communities are basically the same frequency or the same vibration, whether the way they think or the way they live or however, and then they can kind of cohabitate. You know, when I was a young entrepreneur, I lived in a lower income place. I've shared about being robbed there and all the different challenges that I've had there, and that was why I was an easy one to. I mean, I stood out. I couldn't help it. I wore suits. I had a nice car. Like I was out. I did things, and I was trying to live, believe it or not, below my means. And I justified living where I was because I didn't have a mortgage, didn't have debt. What a great experience. I was afraid to leave my house all the time because my house was robbed all the time. But hey, I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have debt. I didn't have to cut my grass every week because wasn't a part of a homeowners association or whatever. But those stories, the stories that we use are in everyday life. I mean, it's so funny how we look at things and how we can look at it from a positive lens that allows us to uh, overcome and rise above our past self or a past version of uh, society or some kind of organization. But if we looked at everything from an energetic standpoint, if we looked at everything as a cell, every organization, every member is a cell of an organization, creates organs, and however you want to look at it, like everything comes back to our true nature, and our true nature is nothing lives for itself in nature. It's all for the greater good of the collective. And where I feel some of us have gotten skewed in our conditioning and our egoic conquest to overcome natural occurrences, we've forgotten that. Like the big debate about the vaccines and all that kind of stuff. And when it was a big hysteria, I would just say you can't outsmart nature. If I'm supposed to get it, I'm going to get it. Now the trick is to get it and then to use medicines and things that we're aware of to heal faster and easier and more efficiently. That's the beauty of the mind. Allows us to evolve beyond our animal selves. Which why I think it's ridiculous to say that, people can't sleep in the same bed without having sex. Married couples have been proving that for a long time. So I don't believe that there isn't a way that we can all learn to honor and love and respect one another for the processes that we're going through that we call life. And how do we work together? How do we come together? How do we uh, walk together? Um, I mean, I think it was you, Mark, that we were having a conversation once that said, we're all shoulder to shoulder in this present moment. And if we see one separated or one better than another or, any of that kind of stuff, well, then that's our own work. And yeah, it's hard to shift people that don't want to be shifted, or change perspectives or anything else like that. Nobody wants to be shamed into change. So how about we inspire it and remind each other that what it is that we want in life. What is it that you want in your life? What kind of relationships do you want to have? Are you being that version of yourself? And then what are the conditions? It's hard to be abundant when you're afraid to give things away because you don't think you have enough. You're not abundant. If you can't give your time away, then you're not abundant. If you're worried about how you're using this, that, or the other, you're not abundant. Hate to pop your bubble. I mean, that's pretty sharp. Now, a friend going through something right now. Another one of her friends reached out, needed to talk, and they didn't get that opportunity to talk. That hurts. Been there. I actually got to go on a trip when I was out in Colombia. There was a guy that reminded me a lot of my friend that OD'd. And, he would reach out when he needed help. And one time it wasn't in a perfect alignment with where I was in that moment. I couldn't just drop. I chose not to drop everything. I chose not to inconvenience myself. Never got to physically talk to him again. So we don't know. you know. And they don't have to physically die. Those are the hardest relationships, right? When they physically die, we can make peace. When my grandparents died, I never felt more close to them because there wasn't anything more to hide from them. They knew it already. I didn't have to be embarrassed about what I had done or didn't do. But the ones that live on, those are some challenging things to heal within ourselves, because there's still the possibility of having the external validation, right? Even if it's like, we all did the best we could, it didn't work out. No hard feelings. Someone chooses not to want to try to repair things or continue on a friendship or something like that, then we get the opportunity to learn to let it go. And maybe we always will hang on to hope that one day we can reconcile or cross paths and it can all be well. Because I was sharing with my friend Rhonda this morning about when I was in the adult industry, a lot of us got screwed over, by someone that took advantage of us, and we all got, you know, we all had things happen for us, to us, however you want to look at it, right? And it wasn't until years later that I ran into them, and they told me that they didn't hold it against me. They didn't hold it personally, and we remain friends to this day. Not close friends, but you know, we're friendly because I believed in somebody, and I opened up the doors of opportunity for him to take advantage of not only myself but other people. Even though I know I didn't personally do it, and I was in the same boat as they were, I I was the bridge, and I took that very personally and carried a lot of shame and regret about that because I made a mistake. And now I've learned. I mean, even walking with all these wonderful spiritual people and leaders and all that kind of stuff, I observe not just what they say, but how they actually are, how they actually walk, how they communicate with with everybody. When there is a circumstance that comes up, when there is a challenge that comes up, how do they handle adversity? And then through those observations, I can choose whether to align with them, whether to refer them to my friends and my family and those that I care about. And, it was part of the experience that I needed to have. Why was he able to do what he did? Was because even though that I knew what he was saying wasn't 100% true, I wanted to believe in the vision, and I wanted to believe in the idea, and I wanted to believe in the financial freedom and abundance that was promised. I cared more about that external stuff than I did what I was feeling and hearing on the inside. And finding all these different things of harmony and peace and flow and compassion and all, it's all cultivated from the inside by getting curious of what it feels like when someone's shown it to you and didn't need to. Beyond your recognition or understanding of someone being there for necessarily not any reason other than they want to invest their energy into your well-being. And I believe that's the new earth. It's not about having all the possessions. As Gandhi said, that, Mother Nature provides enough resources for everybody's wants, but not everybody's greeds. And so the fact that, we haven't figured out how to home the homeless and feed the starving and get water to people that need water and, all those various different things, we have some work to do. Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely. And the first part of fixing a mistake is accepting that you made one, right? Like if you can't accept that you've misstepped, then how are you ever going to fix something, or heal something, or however you want to say it? And I think that's what helps through the process, right? Of this whole humbling process is, I remember listening to a lot of motivational speakers and a lot of professionals and people that was trying to model my life after. And they would sit up there and they would make all these beautiful speeches and have all these beautiful talks and programs and teachings and all this kind of stuff. And then in the shadows, When the camera wasn't looking, then you saw all their character flaws. Um, and and to be truly humble and say, yeah, I'm always going to be a work in progress. Like, I hope I never get to the place where I feel like I've arrived and there's nothing more for me to do, because there's always more that I can do. Why I'm still here on this physical plane. Same thing for each one of us. Yes, be the best version of you, whatever that looks like. I hope you're happy. I hope you're joyful. I hope you're caring. I hope you're nurturing. I hope you're compassionate. I hope you're committed. I hope you're, loving. I hope, all those various different things, because that's what I hope to be. Generous, understanding. We have all these great words. And then we have the opportunity to back it up with our actions, with our behaviors. And that's how we create the harmony, peace, and flow within our lives and our relationships. Because how happy and harmonious and flowing are you in the relationship with yourself or another person that says they're going to do, that says one thing and does another? And I'm pointing that back to ourselves too. I remember, well, and I can still say it, talking about quitting smoking. I know one day I can quit anytime I choose to. It's just, when am I going to choose to? It's just a choice. And then it's a commitment to practice that choice, to create a new identity, to create new habits that support that identity. And when we believe that somebody outside of us is going to save us or heal us, they may play a part in it. But we're also not taking or claiming the responsibility for the part that we have. And it's a slippery slope. I think it was Will Smith that said, um, it's not your fault that whatever happened happened. It's your responsibility to learn and grow from it, because it happened. Yeah, recreating the creation, right? And I think we do that sometimes so we can actually learn what it feels like, um, which is a deepening in some ways. Like, I know there's a lot of talk about self-harm and that kind of stuff, and absolutely, there can be a level, um, well, we're all in guilty of that to some level. I mean, I know somebody that has a story that said, I did everything they told me to do to be perfectly healthy, and I still got cancer. I haven't talked to her for years. So maybe her story has changed. But the point that I'm trying to make is, life happens with or without our permission. How we create the continuous flow of harmony, peace, love, abundance, all that kind of stuff, is remaining present, observing the circumstances, knowing when to and when not to. understanding that we can't be attached to the outcome. We're not procrastinating. There's no such thing. Life moves, life flows, whether we're sitting on the couch or we're running a multi-billion-dollar company. It's the same 24 hours. Some of us have had the opportunity um, to, 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 to have different resources to build different things within, you know, um, different timelines. Those that got a fresh start or a higher start, I guess. I don't know how you would say it without trying to turn it into a hierarchy. It's definitely not a better start. For an example, someone in my family is struggling with addiction, and you know, she she was catered to her whole life. She doesn't know what it's like to live without, to have lack. Um, the last time we shared stories, her friend was challenging her to swim. I think it was like 10 times in the summertime in their new pool. And if she did it, she got, $1,000. I would have knocked that out in 10 days, right? I think that would have just been my daily practice. Okay, I got it. Woo! Because I've come from that place where $1,000 is helpful. But when you have more than you need and you don't need it, $1,000 isn't very motivating. you know. But she was super competitive, figure skater. Was in movies and all kinds of different stuff. Very proud of her for what she's gone through in her life and what she's continuing to grow. And I support and hope that she finds the healing that she needs, so she doesn't need the substances anymore to be able to cope with life. And that doesn't matter if it's sugar, Coke, doesn't matter if it's popcorn, whatever, gamble, whatever it is. To be able to free yourself of any kind of uncontrollable impulse is a level of freedom. Doesn't mean that you don't want to do it. Doesn't just means that you don't have to. That's when you're going to experience harmony. That's when you're going to experience peace. That's when you're going to experience flow. So when you realize you don't have to do anything, you don't have to be anything. We all got this opportunity and possibility to. This responsibility to participate in the life that we want to live and the legacies that we want to leave after we're gone. Just like our ancestors have taught us, one day we will be the ancestors. And how we live and how we care for one another and our planet is what's going to make the material difference for the future generations. There's a saying, you can't starve your grandkids to feed your kids. And eventually, if we destroy the natural systems that care for us, that care for this planet, the future generations are going to have a little harder time physically. They're not going to be all caught up in the mental and emotional realms of how we've hurt each other, learning to come together in love, peace, and solidarity, even through our diversities, differences, and unique perspectives of how we want to experience this thing we call life. And with that, this is our show. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you follow, subscribe, Facebook, the Enhance Your World show, YouTube. You can also do that there, and you can watch all the broadcasts. Join the free community, online community, where we are hosting all of our online events and things like that at enhancingyourworld.com. Much gratitude for everything that you are, everything you do, and everything you choose to be. May your day be blessed in ways beyond your belief. May you be able to see the unseen. Much love and gratitude. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, 11:30. Bye-bye.